Good morning to the world of surface preparation. Thanks for joining us. This is the NFE Workshop coming to you from Denver, Colorado. And also, we're going to link in our main manufacturing facility out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And joining us today is our VP of Manufacturing, Geoff Putz. That's Geoff with a G, and yes, he is a Putz. I am Crazy Concrete Dave. Do you know the Muffin Man? I know the Muffin Man. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. So thanks for joining us, and we're going to send it over to Geoff. And Geoff's going to start off with our first topic, which is charging your rider. Take it away, Geoff.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate the warm welcome. Most of you would probably better recognize me from behind and a little ways away. That is my better side. 2019 male model. They let me do that every once in a while. I had to plug myself, so I had to get that out of the way. No, but thank you for coming and being with us today. I'm here in the Minneapolis facility, which you can probably hear the noise in the background. Somebody's hammering on something. Hopefully they're not breaking it. But with that said, everything we're going to be looking at today that we're going to be talking about, we actually manufacture here in Minneapolis in this facility. And I think that's really important in the world of automation and all of that. We hand build things here. They're real people. They live here in Minnesota. They're putting the equipment together. They put their names on it. They're very passionate about that. So I really like to share that. Very proud of this team of people. They're just amazing. We also have in-house here is our technical support and repair team. So some of the things we're talking about today, if you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to us at 1-800-245-0267, and you can speak to one of the members of our team. They'll gladly help you through whatever trials, tribulations, questions, so on and so forth. And before we hop into the charger, I'm going to give a shout out to Connie Hardy, who's on the backside there, and Nick Stefanski. They're the people that make this happen, and it's a lot of work that goes into these videos, even though it looks like I'm sitting in an office, which I am. This is my office. It's the other side. But no, big thanks to them. They do a great job.
Hey, Geoff.
And
Geoff, let me just chime in to the audience. Don't forget, you guys can chat in live if you're online, which there's several thousand of you online already. So just
absolutely.
chat in your questions, and someone will read them to either Geoff or myself, and we'll answer your questions. Go ahead, Geoff. Sorry.
No, thank you, Dave. That's great. Yeah, with all the introductions out of the way, we'll kick it off. So, um, I I get to talk to a lot of people, which is really great. Of course, I have a team of people that work for me that deal with a lot of you on an individual basis. But one of the number one questions we get are in relation to charging of the rider. It's why it says it's charged, but it only runs for this period of time and so on and so forth. So this section, we're going to get into that a little bit and chat about that. First, I'm going to go through some of the best practices. So if you have an electric battery-powered dashless flooring ride-on scraper, it's a 48-volt system. It either has a single bank of batteries or two banks of batteries, but they all utilize one of these bad boy chargers right here. This is the Delta Q charger. We have partnered with them. This is a specific charger for our equipment, and then within that, it has a lot of we have the ability to custom program it. So it's custom programmed for your machine to optimize the charging so that it charges first and foremost as fast as possible, but secondly, to protect the batteries and to make sure that those batteries serve you as long as they possibly can. So we have a few best practices that we always like to talk about. First and foremost, every rider comes with, sorry, I got my show and tell here. Every rider comes with one of these charging cords. This is a 7-foot, 12-gauge extension cord, very heavy duty. The reason we went with a little shorty is that we want to minimize the distance between where the power is coming from in your machine. The heavier gauge extension cord and the shorter the distance is will decrease the amount of time it takes to recharge your ride-on scraper. And of course, everybody wants it to charge faster and faster and faster. And Dave brought up a good point the other day. So in the U.S. here, this probably looks familiar to you. This is your regular outlet plug. And then on the other side, this is called an IEC connection. Very similar to, and it's the same style that you would use to plug in your computer monitor or your computer or other electronic devices. And so we also have the ability, because these chargers are smart, they're awesome, they're great, to charge at different voltages. So this is a European plug, so hopefully we have some European guests on today. But in Europe, they use 230 volts. So most of our chargers have an input voltage range of somewhere between 110 and 250 volts. In the US, if you'd like to, you can talk to our technical support team, but we can get you set up with a 220 volt plug to plug into a 220 volt single phase if you have that available at your facility or your workplace or anything like that.
Hey Jeff,
So
Jeff, let me ask you a question. If I
yeah,
switch out my 12 gauge, 7 foot, 110 volt cord and my batteries were completely dead, and I found out that, hey, lo and behold, I've got two 30 volt single phase here on the job site that I have easy access to. How much benefit do I get on the decrease in charging time versus 110 if I can grab my um, 230 volt single phase adapter with IEC plug?
oh, that's a great question, Dave. Yeah, the depending upon a lot of different circumstances, but in optimal charging, you're probably looking at a decrease of 10 to 15% of time. So that could be minutes to hours. But like it is faster. It's not twice as fast, but there definitely is, like I said, a 10 to 15% decrease in charge time. So that's a great question. And so now I'm going to get into a little more of kind of what we feel here a lot. So there's a couple different pieces to the charging system in addition to the charger that I showed you. And I want to chat through that a little bit today to provide some clarity to help understand the ins and outs of maybe how charged my machine is, if I could guesstimate how long it's going to take to finish charging, and what does that mean for runtime, which of course is the most important part of it. So Nick's going to go ahead and share an image with you of the battery charger itself. So I showed you the one physically here. Nick's going to pop one up for, it'll show you it's actually a 5700 ride-on scraper. And that's located, if you're facing the machine, in the bottom left-hand little metal pocket down there. And that basically, the charger mounts there and it hangs out there. And what it does is, that's where you're inputting the power. You'll see the power cable. There we go. Nick's got the image up. So you'll be able to plug in your machine there, and that's the charger. There's a second facet to the charging system, and that's the next image, which is our battery indicator, which would be if you were on the machine in the operating position. Nick is going to go ahead and throw that one up as well. On the right-hand side, there is your start button, your stop button, if it's a key switch, if it's a different style or international machine. And then there's a little bit of an indicator right there, and it's called, we call it the low voltage alarm. So on the picture that you're seeing, it says 100. Now, what is that? 100 out of 1,000, 100 out of 100, 100%? It's a great question. The main purpose of that low voltage alarm is to protect your batteries. So that works in conjunction with the charger, and that senses voltage. So kind of like you have a vehicle, you have a car, right? It says you have a full tank of gas, you're pretty sure you have a full tank of gas, half tank of gas, so on and so forth. You can believe in that. There's a little bit of confusion with this, and that's why I want to address it. We get this phone call all the time, and they're like, it says 100, but then all of a sudden it goes down 99, 98, 97, 96. The problem is let's say you plug in your machine for a little bit, and you gave it some charge. Well, those batteries, they grow in voltage. And so what it's sensing is it's saying, oh, well, you've got 48 volts, so you must be fully charged. When in reality, your batteries may only be 20% charged. So in most situations, especially if you have a newer machine and you're like, well, I thought it was charged, but it keeps falling on space, and now I get this alarm. And what that alarm's doing is it's doing two things. It's telling you I'm dead and I need to be recharged. It also protects your batteries. That's why we have it. If it gets down to 45 volts for the entire pack, or if you have two banks of batteries, it shuts the machine down. And the reason it does that is if you drain your batteries too far down, you can actually end up damaging them so that they can no longer take 100% charge. So that's why that's there. And then Nick, if you want to go ahead and go to the charger display image that we have here, and I'm just going to grab my sheet to make sure that I am speaking to that properly. There's a lot of little lights on there, and I get distracted easy, and blinking lights are just not a good thing for somebody to squirrel. It's like, next gonna throw that up. And so that's it looks like this, but that's the image that you're going to see on the actual front of the charger. And what that does is that tells us a variety of different things. We're going to start at the bottom. So on the bottom light, and it would look just like this if it was in the rider, be bottom to top. And we actually have a little key on the rider as well, so a little sticker on there, so that to kind of help you through that. And then of course this is in the manual, and then we also include a supplementary manual. But the bottom light is telling telling you if there's a fault, meaning like maybe there's an issue with the charger, maybe there's an issue with the batteries. Once again, give us a phone call here. We can help you through that if there's some sort of fault and help determine if it's a charger problem, if it's a low voltage issue, if there's some other issue. That kind of helps us figure that out. The next light up is kind of an amber indicator, and that's just telling us if there's AC voltage present. If it's within the range, it's going to blink, and that's basically telling you, okay, the charger has power. That's good. The next indicator up is the charge completion indicator. This is the key to success right here. So once again, your low voltage alarm in the prior picture can say 100%, but that doesn't mean that your machine is fully charged. The indicator on your battery charger is your key to know really how charged your machine is. And so that third light up, which is a green light, if you're up to 80% charge, meaning that you have 80% capacity in your batteries, it's going to blink green. And now you're ready to go. I mean, could you use it before that? Sure, if you're finishing up a job site. But then you know that you've got 80% of your charge. So depending upon the type of machine that you bought, that could be 4 to 10 hours of runtime. Just depends upon what your application is, what you're doing. A solid green light in that same indication will be telling you that it's fully charged and that you're 100% ready to go. We always go back to the charger. The charger has the best capability of understanding and reading the batteries. There's thermal probes in the batteries. There's all kinds of stuff. It's talking to the batteries and saying, okay, where are we? What's going on? The rest of the lights are just telling you if it's charging. So the one right above that is a bulk charge. And we have what's called an algorithm. Every battery charger has an algorithm or multiple algorithms. And what those are designed to do is to give those batteries the right amount of power from the charger. It usually looks like kind of a swooping rainbow. Starts at the bottom, goes up, comes back down. And the reason for that is that if your batteries are really hot or you've just been using it, it's not going to shove a bunch of power in there right away because it's protecting them. And so that's what all the rest of the indicators moving up are. They're telling you how many amps they're putting in. Now, that's not amps it's drawing from the wall. That's amps that it's putting into your batteries. It's converting AC voltage to DC voltage and 48 volts and charging those batteries. So I hope that's kind of a good window into a little bit more how it works. Like I said, we get that all the time. My machine says it's 100%. We live in a world when your phone says 100%, I get it. Unfortunately, just because of irregularity in battery voltages, especially in DC, you're running into it's getting a false read. So always look back to the charger. If you have questions about that, feel free to reach out. Salespeople, the tech support team, we can all talk you through that. And like I said, that's basically the long and the short of that. I will chat a little bit while we're here. Of course, the final element that we've been talking about is the batteries, right? So the batteries themselves. This is one more question I get all the time. They go, well, can I just go to my local auto parts store and buy batteries? Well, you could, and we can help you identify the right batteries. We sell batteries. Other people sell batteries. That's fine. Our big thing is we want to make sure you get the right type of batteries in that machine. First of all, the correct voltage. So you have 6 8-volt batteries or you have 12 8-volt batteries, but the type of battery is key. So everybody's very familiar with like a lead acid style battery. That's what's in most of your automobiles, lawn tractors, so on and so forth. Then an upgrade from that, which a lot of people like to have in their boats, power sports, would be like an acid gel battery. And then now we're in the world of lithium, right? A lot of people are buying lithium. The lithium technology is coming along. It's getting better and better, stronger and stronger, safer and safer. But what we use in our machines is called an AGM, which is an absorbed glass matte battery. There's a reason for that. These are demolition machines, right? I mean, people do things with these machines. Every year I hear, oh wow, they made this and they're doing this. We know people use our machines for how they're intended to be used and how they're not intended to be used. But with that, they're demolition machine. They're constantly impacting like this all the time. And so if you put a lead acid battery or a gel battery or an insufficient lithium ion battery, what happens is in a very short period of time, maybe even weeks, or it could be days if you're doing a big job site, those batteries get destroyed. They are not meant to take that type of abuse. That's what an AGM battery does for you. And we get that call all the time, and AGM batteries are more expensive. And of course, everything in this world right now is going up in cost. They're a lot more expensive than lead acid batteries. The problem is if you throw lead acid or gel batteries in your ride-on scraper, they'll work for a little while. But then they'll basically melt down. They'll get acid all over the place. You'll end up replacing way more components, possibly ruining other very, very expensive parts in your machine. So I always like to just chat about that a little bit because the type of battery is very important. Once again, we can help identify the correct batteries to put in your machine when you're replacing them down the road. So,
Hey, Jeff,
uh,
I've
yeah,
also noticed from a lot of contractors in the past, they find out how much a replacement set of AGM batteries costs. So they're like, I'm not paying that. And they run out and they get some regular car batteries basically, and they load their machine up with that and they figure out how to make that happen. Well, there's some advantages and disadvantages, obviously. With AGM glass mat batteries, about 90% of the runtime, the machine's running the same speed. And then toward the end of the battery charge, you can tell as the operator because it drops off considerably. It's like jumping off a cliff at the end of the day. With
yeah.
standard batteries, what happens is it starts with a full charge and all day long it slows down. So these guys have told me, and this is from their experiences, is we thought we were going to save money by switching to some cheaper batteries, but really at the end of the day, we got half as much production, and I'm paying my union guy, $100 an hour to operate this machine, and he got half as much done as he used to with AGM batteries because the machine just slows down all day long. It just keeps getting slower and slower. So, the grass is always greener on the other side, but listen, what your mother told you is true. You get what you pay for in life.
That's a great story, Dave. I mean, it's very true. We hear that all the time. We've repaired some machines that have come in here that have acid all over them, of course, which is disgusting. And it's just it's hard because like you said, not only did thought you saved money, but you actually spent more money because you bought these batteries, which are no longer good, and then you had to move on to these ones and buy the right ones. And so, like I said, it's very important. And then, instead of batteries, we'll go back. I'll say one more thing about the charging before we move on to the
Jeff, we
next
have a
section.
question. We have a
We
question
do.
someone's chatted in.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
The question is,
Is it cheaper over the long term to have a battery machine or a propane machine if the batteries are so expensive?
is it cheaper in the long run? The question is from the chat, which is a great question. Thanks for whoever asked that. Is it cheaper in the long run to have a battery powered machine or a propane powered machine? I think I can answer that from all the questions or do you want to answer it, Jeff? You want me to answer it?
Go ahead, and then I'll jump off behind that. How's that sound?
So previous to obviously what Jeff was talking about a minute ago, where the price of fuel and propane has gone through the roof, just back when it was, normally priced, the guys that I have known throughout the years that are demo contractors that have battery machines and propane machines, they keep track of the costs of their operating because they need to know how to bid their jobs. And from my understanding is it's anywhere from 5 to 10 times more expensive to operate a propane machine because of the cost of propane, and I imagine that's gone up considerably today. But you also have the cost of the maintenance. You have oil changes, filter changes. There's things you have to do to a fossil fuel operated machine that you don't have to do to a battery machine. So I would say that, especially if you guys are taking into consideration a majority of the time, you're charging your machine on somebody else's power. So they're paying for your charge. So it is way, way cheaper as a contractor to run a battery machine than it is a propane machine. That I've been told that over and over and over. I have, 20 different examples of that over the years.
No, that's very true, Dave. Like you said, there's they both serve their purpose, and in a perfect world, if I was a contractor, I'd like to have one of each. But because there's certain applications where that propane machine, you've got to go for so many hours, and you don't want to wait for charge time. But like Dave said, the propane machine or any fossil fuel engine is very expensive to run, maintain, and then you have to have propane on hand, and you have to do all this other stuff as well. So yeah, the battery machines, I mean, like Dave said, I mean, you keep them charged up. There is very little maintenance. We discuss all of that in our service manual, which you can get online. It comes with every machine, but there's very little maintenance to the electric machines. Whereas like Dave said, a propane machine, there's significantly more. It's not terrible, but there is more. And on that note, so like Dave said, plugging into somebody else's power, of course, that's the way to do it. And we're going to see a lot more of that as people have more electric cars where they're drawing a lot of power to charge. But the electric machines, I'm going to do a little myth busting. So historically in the past, you have a battery, and you run that battery down. Let's say it was a deep cycle battery, which is basically what these are. And you run it all the way down to where its bottom minimum, or where its minimum level is, right? And then you give it a rest, then you charge it, and you let it charge all the way up to the top. You don't interrupt the charge, you don't stop. You let it charge all the way, then you unplug the charger, right? And you let it sit for a while, and then you use it and you repeat the process. The charger technology, these are all digital chargers, solid state chargers. They are so much better at being able to identify where the battery is and protect it. Whereas before, guys were concerned that, I left my charger plugged on and it's going to ruin the batteries, right? That's a myth. Not maybe not on the old chargers and old batteries, but on our machine. So what we recommend is that you just leave your machine plugged in whenever, especially if you're not going to use it for a while. This charger not only has the capability of charging the batteries, but it has the ability to maintain the batteries. It will float the batteries, it'll load level the cells, it'll do all of that neat stuff for us because of the way it's designed. And then it's 100% ready to go. And a guy talked to me the other day, and he's like, well, we just used our machine on the one job site, and it still said 100%. Once again, back to it was learning experience, brand new operator, brand new machine. He loves it. But then all of a sudden it died right away. I said, well, did you charge it after you used it at your last job site? Well, no, it said 100%. So by default, the fail safe is to just plug that machine in, let it charge. And like I said, you will not damage the batteries by leaving that machine plugged in. We have people that leave them plugged in whenever they're not being used and whenever they're not transporting in a trailer. So definitely keep your riders plugged in, keep them juiced up, and they'll always be ready to go for you.
Yeah, our Delta Q chargers actually act as once it's charged up, it'll shut off, but over a long storage period of time, like I have an old sports car, and I actually have an AGM battery under the hood, and I have a trickle charger on it. And that's exactly what happens to the Delta Q chargers. At some point, if the battery voltage drops a little bit, the Delta Q charger, if you leave it plugged in, it's going to kick in. It's going to become a trickle charger. It'll keep those batteries, like Geoff said, balanced and charged up. So when you unplug it and get ready to jump out onto that job site, you are definitely ready to go.
Absolutely. Well, I hopefully I didn't bore you to death yet. Dave's beautiful, so he's always fun to listen to and talk to. I think we can move, Dave. I don't know if you're good with that. I think we can move on to the walk behind scrapers and kind of get into what we were going to chat about today on that.
Sure.
You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. So what Dave's going to demonstrate here in a minute is he's going to demonstrate the safe loading and unloading of a walk behind scraper. And obviously, safety first, first and foremost in anything in life, but the machines that we make in the walk behind line are specifically made to have some movement. And I actually have some parts here that I'm going to show you, or as we call a little show and tell, to kind of explain how that works. So what I have here is I have a base plate assembly. This is kind of the inner magic of our Commander. This is a Commander, so a 6280 Commander. And what we have here is, you'll see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, isolators. And what those do, I'll show you an individual one in a second, is that's what kind of helps create the commotion, right? Little jiggling action. But what that does is it allows the machine to have that oscillating motion. So when you see the machine on the front, you have that blade or whatever other piece of tooling you have. If you have a gladiator, you might have a shank on there for removing tooling. And what that does is that allows the machine to do a little bit of this. Okay. That's by design. That allows it to get underneath that material. Dave's demonstrated that in other videos, so you can definitely check out some of those. But that allows that machine to get underneath that material and pop up that tile, scrape that glue off of the floor. And they're by design to move, and then anything that moves, as we all know, wears out over time. And so what I have here is I have 2 different isolators. So you saw they're called isolators, but there were 7 of them in there. And this is a brand new one right here. So this screws in. We sell these parts, and we can help you rebuild your machine. We can rebuild your machine here through our distribution. And if you ever need any help with that. And here's one that's wore out and ready to be replaced. This one isn't completely broken, but if you see, I put the 2 next to each other. See how much taller this one is? This one's not all squashed down, squished out. This old one's starting to get torn in a few spots here. And so this one was ready to replace. I actually took this. We have a walk behind here right now. I walked out to my repair tech, Benjamin, and said, hey, I need one of the used isolators off your machine. And he said, okay, here we go. And so I like to talk about that because that's just part of the general maintenance of having a machine like that. And over time, those will wear out. But what Dave's going to demonstrate today is how to make sure that they last as long as they can. I've had a lot of people, they are demolition pieces of equipment, but of course you want to take care of them. And if you are slamming the front end of that machine into something, not when you're operating, but rolling it down a ramp when you're unloading it out of your van or work truck or down your enclosed trailer, and you slam that into the floor, you greatly shorten the life of those isolators because they're just rubber. It's a bolt. So, Dave, if you wanted to go ahead, if you're ready, to go ahead and kind of just explain how we use. I don't know if you're going to use transport wheels or not. I have a set here to show, but otherwise, just show how to properly load that thing and protect those delicate isolators.
All right, so guys, we've got a 6280 HD Gladiator, and we have a standard contractor 16-foot dual axle trailer. And of course, I obviously recommend putting a winch in the front, and I'm going to show you guys with the drive pins. Can you see me on the camera? All right, so I've got the drive pins removed from the wheel, so it's basically freewheeling. I have a chain with 2 hooks, and then I've got obviously the winch cable, and I've got some help inside of the van. We're gonna winch this right up into it, and I'm gonna show you guys how super easy this is with this winch. All right, hit it, Captain. Perfect. We're just going to roll this all the way up. And then from here, we would strap it down and make sure that it can't move around. And I think that National says in all of their books, and I certainly suggest, never transport it with the transport wheels on it. Go ahead and take them off at this point once it's loaded up, either in the van or the trailer, because it keeps the front end from moving around. And it's a lot easier to secure it in place. So go ahead and take those off during transport. I think we're also going to load a ride-on into this trailer so you guys can see the correct way. A lot of guys aren't really sure how to load their ride-on scraper into a trailer, and it's really important, whether it's a tilt bed trailer or an enclosed trailer, that you back it in. And then once you got it positioned, chain it down. See a lot of guys trying to drive it up into the trailer. And then when they go to take it out, it's really, really difficult to come downhill with your transport wheels up like this. Your center of gravity isn't in the right place. So always, always back it up a ramp. Do you guys want me to show that real quick?
Can we hit the walk behind a little bit more?
Sure, we want to talk some more about the walk behind. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see that, Dave. That's a really good point too. And on that note, obviously we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But yeah, like Dave said, always back up an incline. You want to avoid inclines whenever possible. But yeah, back to the walk behind. So the transport wheels that Dave was talking about are right here. These are included with every brand new 6280 Commander. And also a lot of our other walk behinds include that as well. And we put just a couple wheels on there and make it happen because, like Dave said, one, it's easier to transport. Big thing is take them off once you have them in the trailer, secure it down properly. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can drive it right up on there too. When it comes to the walk behind scrapers, like I said, they're very durable. I think it's interesting. Like every time I go over to our repair area, I go like, what is that? That thing might be older than I am. We've been in business since 1968, and so we have a number of people that have 15, 20, 25, 30-year-old machines out there, and they'll bring them in and they'll have them repaired. They're buying new machines too, of course, updating the fleet, but some of these guys have their old special machine, and we'll redo all those things, right? We'll put brand new isolators in them. We'll throw brand new bearings in them, motors, pumps, so on and so forth. National makes, of course I'm biased. I think we make the best machine, but I know why we do, because of it's the quality of the components and the bearings and all the other stuff, and the fact that we support these machines for many years, as long as we possibly can, just because we know that people like their machines. They become part of the family. It's a little weird. It's like the dog and then the walk behind scraper. I don't ask me. There's just some guys, they will not give up these old machines. I've had people spend more money on fixing an old one than buying a new one. Just there's some sort of a relationship there. But in all seriousness, we make a really good quality product, and it's designed to last, and especially if you do some of these things that we're talking about today when it comes to maintaining and protecting. And that's why we're here. We really want to make sure that you know how to get the best value out of that machine for as long as possible. Dave had mentioned securing the machine properly, and we'll talk about that again with the ride-on scrapers. But I really like to emphasize that we don't tell you how to do this, how to do that, because there's so many different criterias for how to properly secure your load, and every trailer is different. That trailer that Dave has there is really awesome. It has e-tracking in the floor, and we have all kinds of neat things for that. But I always recommend, I took many years ago, I'm in Minnesota here, but they offered a class through the Minnesota DOT. And it was like, $50. It wasn't very expensive. And it was a whole day training. And they brought us to a local technical college, and we got to learn how to, I learned everything about chain tie downs and why, and this, that, and the other thing. But more importantly, you want to make sure that you're safe, like we talked about before, but also legal. So I always recommend, we're talking to people that could be all over the world, right? Not just here in the United States. And so I recommend talking to your local authorities, whatever your transportation department is. If you have questions about how to properly secure something, they have people there to talk through that and say, this is what our expectation is to keep our roads safe. So I always like to default to that and throw that out there, because we get that a lot too. And, how do I do this? Well, okay, I can give you the gist of it, but you need to contact the DOT to really understand what you need to do properly. So do we have anything else? Dave, do we have anything else to talk about walk bys, or anything else you'd like to chat about before we move on to the riders? That's always the more exciting part. But
I'm going to show you guys, we're going to talk a little bit about loading one more way to load a walk behind national scraper. I don't know if you guys are familiar with my history, but I spent most of my life on job sites demonstrating equipment, showing guys how to make the most out of their equipment, how to get the most ROI out of their equipment, maintenance, yada, yada, yada. So everything that I know I've learned from the contractors out there, through their struggles and through their successes. I've been able to learn that, and then this is a great opportunity to return all that information and maybe help you guys out. So with that being said, obviously a lot of times I was out on these job sites by myself. I'd unload some equipment, demo it, and then these guys would go, great, thanks Dave, we'll put it in order for one, and then they just run away. So I've got a 200-pound walk behind scraper, 400-pound walk behind scraper, 600-pound walk behind scraper, and I'm by myself. And this was before I caught on that a bunch of contractors were putting winches in their trailers or in the back of their vans. So I would do things that I probably shouldn't have done. And then somebody asked me, why don't you just drive it in and plug it in? And I was like, because I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. So as soon as somebody made that suggestion one day, I realized that if I could get my trailer somewhat close to a building, I could always find 110 volt power to load a machine. So here's just a little 5280 example. And even if I had lost my transport wheels, I'm just going to fire it up. And I'm just going to drive it right up in the trailer. That's a lot easier than some unapproved ways that I used to try to load machines.
Oh, that's a great example, Dave. You know what I mean? When you're younger too. I mean, I'm not as young as Dave is, but then you just, well, I'm a big guy. I'm just gonna make it. No, don't do that. Any old guy will tell you, don't do that to your back. Do the proper loading, get help, all of that stuff. No, great example, Dave. Ready to move to riders?
Yeah, and before I jump on, I think we have a 5,000 here rider. I want to point out, and Geoff already said it, but just so you guys definitely understand, this isn't a stock trailer. We bought a stock trailer, and I think under Geoff's supervision in Minneapolis, we've put 3/4 inch plywood to reinforce the door, and we've put 3/4 inch plywood on top of the factory plywood to reinforce the floor. And we've also made these, I think Geoff made these, totally wicked awesome flip down ramps, so there's not a hump or a jump or a hole. So I'm going to disappear off camera. I'm going to jump on a ride-on machine, and you definitely want to make sure you have your transport wheels. And one thing that I see a lot of guys making the mistake doing is they slide their transport wheels on, and the top of it is up at an angle. Once you put those transport wheels on, they should be flat. The top of the transport wheel should be flat, horizontal completely. It does tilt the machine back a little bit, but it makes the wheels, when you're turning the machine and driving it, operate like it's supposed to. If it's up at an angle, the wheels want to spin around when there's too much pressure on them. So hopefully you'll get a shot of the transport wheels in the horizontal position where they're supposed to be. So let me hop on this machine. I'm going to show you guys how this works.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Dave. No, that's a really good point. I mean, we custom make these trailers because we basically are going and doing demonstrations and so on and so forth. So make sure that whatever trailer, truck, etc. that you're using is rated to handle the weight. Well, Dave's getting ready to load up that rider. I'll talk about that a little bit. Everyone's usually shocked when they find out how much the ride-on scraper weighs. And they weigh a lot. They range from, depending on which model you have or purchase, anywhere from 1,400 pounds all the way up to 3,200 pounds, right? So you have this little tiny thing that weighs 1.5 tons. I mean, that's an incredible amount of weight. So those are actually custom doors on the back of that trailer that you see there in the picture. To be able to handle that. It's an engineer. So just make sure that you have the proper trailer. We don't want anybody to wreck the trailer door or anything like that. But also, knowing that it weighs that much, just keep that in mind. I mean, some of those weigh more than a small car. So, don't run over anybody's feet or do anything like that. Safety first. I always we recommend full safety gear. A hard hat if you're on a construction site, appropriate gloves, safety shoes, hard toe or steel toe shoes, as well as, safety vest if you're required to do that. So just keep yourself safe and know that you're dealing with a very heavy piece of equipment. Dave, you ready to rock and roll?
Yes, sir. Here we go.
All right.
So when I go to take this out of the trailer, this is a lot easier and a lot safer, and it's definitely the way to go. If I was to have to back this out of this trailer, it's really scary and it's really unsafe because with the transport wheels operating like they're supposed to, your weight's so far back. So always, always back your ride-on machine into your trailer. Even if it's an open tilt trailer, make sure that you are backing it into that surface.
Absolutely, great points, Dave. And on that note too, Dave mentioned the transport wheels again. Once again, we have a transport wheels set of wheels that comes with every ride-on scraper. There's a couple of reasons we do that. One, what you just got to see right here, in that Dave was able to safely and stably load that machine, because underneath the ride-on scraper, you have two wheels in the back, and you have one little wheel in the front, and this is a single caster wheel. Dave asked me to chat about this before I forget. So we used to use a double, so it was just like this, but there was two little wheels in here. Maybe it was even a little bit wider, and carpet would get hung up in between the two wheels, and then they start skidding, and then they don't last very long. So we went to this upgraded heavy-duty single front wheel. This is used on all of our ride-on scrapers with the exception of the 8000, which has one that's also a single but a little taller. And Nick's going to pop up a picture of what happens when you don't protect your single caster wheel. And so the image that Nick's showing is when we had a customer call and said, my rider's not turning very well, and it's making this really weird noise when when I drive. Well, as you can see in the picture, there's, looks like a half moon now. There's not a whole lot left. So what happened was it was actually wore down far enough. They must have got some carpet or something stuck in between the cracks, like I said, and we've done some things to alleviate that, and it's actually a little harder to do, but it does happen. So you got to keep an eye on that. And if you get carpet jammed up in there, you want to pull that out, because if you don't, that's a couple $100 part. And the noise that it was making was the actual, you can see in the picture, the metal, the wheel wore down so far that the metal bracket was scraping on the floor. I can't imagine what that did to the flooring that they were working on. But anyways, that's just something to keep in mind there. And the other thing that we get a lot is people go, well, I have this uneven surface. I have to get this rider over. Well, I look back at it. My scariest phone call to date was somebody said, well, we had to get the rider from here to there, and there was a lawn in between. There was no hard surface. So we laid down some plywood and we started driving it across the lawn, and it flipped over. And of course, the first thing I go, oh my gosh, I hope nobody got hurt. And fortunately, the operator of the machine didn't. What happened was they took little squares of plywood and they tried to drive this 3,000-pound machine over this lawn, which, of course, with these little tiny wheels, that's not possible. So don't do that. And fortunately, he's fine. But I bet it was kind of like a 7-second ride. So, I mean, it must have been real exciting. But I get calls like that every once in a while, or people ask things, and this is not this is not an ATV or a UTV, right? It's not a 4-wheel drive truck. It's a solid machine, much like a forklift is. There is no suspension. There's a reason for that. We need as much down pressure as possible to be able to get that tooling that you have underneath that material to lift it off. And so, in lieu of that, like I also get asked, hey, can I drive this up and down a curb? And well, though you can need to, we prefer if you had some sort of safe ramp or so on and so forth. The problem is Nick's going to throw up a picture of of what happens if you drive it hard over a curb. And basically, it takes that shaft that in the picture there. That's the shaft that the wheel hub hooks up to, and it just sheared right off. And the machine tipped over. So they're very strong, very heavy duty built machines, there's limitations to that. And they're built heavy duty in certain ways, and in other ways they're very delicate. We always want to make sure, protect your wheels, protect your wheel motors, be nice to them. Especially in an environment like we have today where, parts are sometimes out of stock and hard to come by. Of course, we're doing things every day to make sure we fulfill everybody's needs, but that's a very, very expensive part. It's a couple $1,000 part. And so that's what happens if you beat it up too many times and drive off a curb real hard. Plus, that's extremely dangerous, so we don't recommend that anyway. So best, like before, Dave said, if you're going up an incline, we want to back up an incline, nice and easy. And like Dave said, not only does that make it easier to unload it out of the trailer, but it also makes it safer because of where your center of gravity is. And if you have to drive over an uneven surface, make sure you do that in the safest way possible. Dave, did you have anything else to add?
I always recommend a ramp. Geoff, we're all aware the cost of lumber's gone up alarming amounts, but listen, not so much that safety should be exchanged for, wood's expensive. Just build a ramp, you guys. You're contractors. I'm pretty sure you're capable of building a ramp that's safe enough to get your machine off of a curb if that's actually required. Don't drive it off a curb. It's a great way to get hurt. And like Geoff said, it's a great way to damage your machine. And whatever the cost of a little bit of lumber cost, it's not near the cost that it's going to cost to repair that machine. And your job is not getting done because now your machine is down. And it's going to be down for a while waiting for those parts, and you guys have to fix it. So just make good decisions and think about what you're doing. And I've actually had guys FaceTiming, showed me pictures going down in the basement, and was like, hey, Dave, can you help me get my rider into this basement? I'm like, no, not going to happen, guys. But, and then there's other ones where I'm like, oh, here's a simple solution. Here's what it is.
No, it's a really good point, Dave. And yeah, on that note too, know what your surface is on. Back to like how much these machines weigh. If you're in an industrial building and you're working, there's probably an on-site engineer that needs to, approve what elevators or mezzanines or anything like that you're going to go on, because these machines weigh a lot. I think to your point, Dave, I think they would have made it to the basement real easy, probably a little quicker than they wanted to. But I think that would have been a permanent fixture in the basement, probably, right? Turn it into a bar or something like that.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I had a neighbor that lived behind us, and They had an old World War II motorcycle with a sidecar in the basement and just had wood steps going up into the main level of the housing. And even as a young kid, because I think we moved away from Minnesota when I was about 10, I always thought, how did they get that in the basement? Oh, I know how they got it in, but now they can't get it out. True story.
So it's yeah, exactly. I mean, it's so true. So I don't think we have any questions as of yet on any of the rider section. So I mean, I'm ready to jump into grinders and chat a little bit about that. If Dave, if you're ready,
Sure. Let's go.
let's do it. So we make a number of grinders here at National Flooring, and our entry level grinder is called the Helix. It's a really neat little machine. It can do all kinds of fun stuff from grinding to polishing. Dave's done some videos along with Tom Griffin, who is ill today. That's why he's not with us. But I mean, really a really great machine. And so what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. Dave's talked about our tooling and all of that stuff. What we're going to talk about is kind of what makes it work. So a lot of people will say, well, a grinder is just a motor on a stick. Well, essentially that is true. What makes it special is the attachment and the weight and the distribution and so on and so forth. So what I actually have here with me today is the tooling plate. It's kind of heavy. We make everything heavy duty, right? Tooling plate off of our Helix grinder. So this is the back of it. This would be the side that would interface with the machine. And this is the part that would then interface with the floor. Right now it has the satellites in here. We build ours with these basically these isolator systems so that it protects and gives it a little bit of give. So because floor isn't completely flat, right? So when this thing's on the floor, it's probably doing a little bit of this or a little bit of that and so on and so forth. On the back side, you'll see that black portion, and that is a plastic clutch. And what that's meant to do is, let's say you're humming along and you're in an industrial building and somebody left a bolt in the floor. We've all hit a bolt in the floor or tripped on it or something like that. And what that's designed to do is to be able to fracture and therefore try to protect that motor. And that usually works really well. But sometimes if you hit something too hard or you didn't see it coming and it happens, you might actually damage the inside of the motor as well. But that's what that's on there for. The clutch is there to basically be, I get that question a lot. Why is there this plastic piece on here? Everything else is metal. Well, it's because you got this thing spinning really fast, and if it comes to a dead stop, there's problems. And so, like I said, that protects the motor. There's also a shear key in the, it's a motor / gearbox assembly that's on the Helix. And that's there to basically make sure that, if this fails or this doesn't fail, then maybe this will. Occasionally, we end up with a few that I'm not sure what happened to them or if they got tossed off the back of a truck, but we'll get one that has a broken motor housing, which is really hard to do, but it does happen every once in a while. So once again, that goes back to why we're here today. We're here today to help you understand how to protect your Helix and your machines and all this other stuff. But when you're moving your grinder around, don't slam it down on the floor. Try to be nice to it, just like Dave showed in the trailer. Same situation. You would just roll that up nicely, set it down, secure it so that it can't move around when you don't want it to. And that machine will make you a lot of money for a long time. Dave, did you have anything to talk? Yeah, go ahead.
Geoff, that clutch that you're showing us, that little black piece that's plastic, not only does it protect the machine, but is this something I should keep in my toolbox on the job site of my job box? Does it cost $30? Does it cost $500? How cheap is that part? How cheap is that insurance for having those clutches and replacement clutches in case you need them in a bind?
No, that's a great question, Dave. Yeah, absolutely. We sell all the parts too, right? We build this here. This is they build this part and then they build the whole Helix and then this goes on. You can buy this part as well as a replacement. So like to your point, Dave, I think you also recommend having an extra tooling plate. That's more expensive than having a clutch, but it's nice to have one. Maybe you want one with this tooling on it and one with that tooling on it. But yeah, to your point, Dave, well, for you, I mean, if you got $500, I'll get you one. You just send me the check, and I'll mail one to you. No, it's probably like Dave said, I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, let's say it's a $30 to $50 part, very cheap insurance to protect your $6,000-$7,000 machine, right, Dave?
And they're super easy to replace. From I think I remember, it's got 8 bolts, and you just pull those off, slap a new one on there. It's really easy to change if it is broken. And if you're smart and you've got one in your job box, you just go to your job box out in the parking lot, bring it out, get a basic tool, replace it, and you're right back to work. And it's not that guys are damaging the machines on purpose. They're grinding up old patch and thin set or something, and those red heads or those anchor bolts that are sticking up the floor, you don't see them. So the guy's just plowing through, and then all of a sudden, bam, his machine's broken. It's not that he's being careless or not paying attention. A lot of times that's hidden by the whatever's on the floor, and then when you find them the hard way.
Exactly. No, that's a great point, Dave. Yeah, and that's like you said, that's why we designed it that way. And I mean, it's really a great machine. It's meant to be the workhorse of the fleet, and that gets you into being able to do probably some jobs that you couldn't do before. So, no, that's a great point. I don't know. Do we have anything else to talk about?
Well, I promise you that I spend a lot of time with customers and job sites and lots of places that have our equipment and other equipment, and I find it very common to see other manufacturers' grinders tore into a million pieces, or they're being there's a weight to put them on a pallet and ship them back for repair. The majority of our grinders, if not all of them, in my opinion, they can be fixed on the job site with basic tools, and they're designed like the 8274-4 has one Kevlar belt. It's amazing. It's so easy to change. The Helix, we talked about the clutch. If it breaks, it's super easy to change. So National is more interested in building equipment to keep you running than we are to get your equipment back to make repairs so we can charge you a bunch of money. We actually put you guys first instead of trying to put our profit first. Like you guys all know, my wife has a car and somebody told me to check the brake fluid, and I opened the hood and looked at it and just closed the hood. I have no idea where the master cylinder or where to check any of that is. It's all, I didn't recognize anything, and I'm a car guy. So at least National still has you guys, the customer first, which I think is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. That's a really good point, Dave. Like you said, I mean, and back to what we chatted about at the top of the hour was, everything you're seeing here today, every machine that we've talked about today, we build right here. I mean, the Helix that Dave's talking about is built right outside my window, which is why it's a little noisy if there's any background noise. We build those machines right here, which means that we have the parts for these machines here, and we stock them and all of that. So now, like Dave said, first and foremost, we build them so that they don't wear out, because it's important to us that you have that machine for a long time, that machine has value to do. It's not about making money and recycling that machine all the time. It's about making sure that you have a piece of equipment that is a staple in your arsenal, but also the fact that if you do need a part or you do need assistance, we have that right here, and we ship same day all the time. A lot of people don't do that anymore. We're not Amazon. I mean, I can't prime it to you in 2 hours, but we do ship same day and next day air and so on and so forth. So if you're out there on a job site and man, I need whether it's a part or tooling or so on and so forth, we have the ability to get that out to you. If not today, first thing tomorrow. So just keep that in mind as well.
Hey, Geoff, so I think National's famous for building solid, really contractor dedicated equipment. Can you tell us how old is some of the equipment that you've seen that have come back for repairs for the first time? Are they 2 years old? Are they 10 years old? What have you seen? What's been your experience?
That's a great question. So, I think it's anywhere in that range, and it goes back to sometimes we get machines that are very new back in because they were abused or an accident happened. Improper loading. We've had people drive them off the back of a trailer on accident, right? So they come back here and get parts. But generally speaking, to more or less answer your question, Dave, the machines that we see back here on average, if they're a machine that's in heavy rental, we might see it after 5 or 6 years. If it's a machine that owner operator or a guy that has his own company, so on and so forth has, we may never see that machine. Sometimes they never need to be repaired or replaced because he just doesn't use it enough, but probably more in that 10-year window of time. We get a lot of riders that have 10 years in them, or 7 or 8 years, and now the batteries are tired and and it needs a different charger, and but a lot of the heart of the machine, the components, Most of our electric riders are, like I said before, 48-volt battery powered. So what that is the batteries power an electric motor, which then runs a hydraulic pump, which then sends the hydraulic fluid through to the valves. And of course, from there, then as the operator, you're deciding where that fluid goes, and that's how the machine works. I've seen machines come in here for new tires and things like that, but have a 30-year-old electric motor in them because we way overbuild that because we want that to last. And the operator took care of it and cleaned it out and made sure got all the dust off of it and didn't hose it down with his pressure washer and all those good things. So yeah, that's a great question, David. It's all over the place, but a lot of machines never come back. They run for a long, long time.
Can I ask you another question, Jeff? If I'm a customer and I think my national machine needs some kind of repair, or if I'm struggling with making it do something I need to, or I feel like it's broken, what steps should I take, and who should I reach out to in the Minneapolis facility to get some help? Maybe part numbers or parts, or it was doing this, it's not doing that. It's got a blinking light. I have an error code. How do I deal with that? How does National address that? What kind of customer service do we offer for those situations that are always going to arise?
No, that's a great question, Dave. Yeah, so we are here in the Minneapolis facility Monday through Friday, and you would just give us a call. You could give us a call or email us, but we'll get you in touch with the right team. So like I said, we have our technical support team. I manage that, and I have about 3 different people that assist in that area here in the U.S. in different ways. I also assist in that as well as a backup to them because we want to make sure that we get you covered whenever possible. Yeah, you would just reach out, explain your situation. Tom Nyland is in charge of technical support next door, and he's generally the one you're going to get to chat with on the phone. He loves to talk and or email, so he will correspond with you accordingly. But very, very good at troubleshooting. That's what we do. We first and foremost, we're going to ask some questions, right? We have to get an idea. We're not there. Pictures are great. We love that. But, get a hold of us. We'll start taking the next steps. We'll get the information that's necessary to be able to help you solve that problem. And furthermore, we offer repair and support here. But through our great distribution network as well, we have a support structure all over the world to be able to help you with your machine. If you're not capable or not wanting to do it yourself, you don't have time, so on and so forth, we will get you set up either with us or with one of our great distributors to be able to get that machine fixed very quickly.
That's a great answer, and I just want to chime in so we didn't pass over too quickly. Tom Nyland is absolutely brilliant at his job. If I don't know or if I need help, believe it or not, I call Tom Nyland and ask him for help. And I've been around this industry for a long time. I've worked on a lot of machines. I've invented swear words working on surface preparation equipment. They're now in Wikipedia. But still, we have great support mechanisms like Tom Nyland. So thanks for pointing that out, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Tom's always here to help out. I was trying to get him to make a cameo appearance this morning, but he said something to the fact that he has a face for radio. I don't know. I think he got that from you, Dave, maybe in your dictionary. So he's not, can't find a picture of him on the internet. You can try, but you're not going to find one. He's, no, but he's a great guy. Lots of experience outside of here as well. Yeah, our technical support team, if you add up all of the years of experience that the 4 of us have, you're looking at probably over 125 years of experience, not just in this industry, but with industrial equipment, electronics, electricity, and all of that. So yeah, feel free to reach out anytime. And then we're getting close to the end here, so I think we should jump right into the shop blasters. We'll get that done. We'll get everybody on their way with their day. And Dave, I couldn't remember. Did you have a shop blaster there that you wanted to show?
I do. Jeff,
Okay.
I have an A95, and
Perfect.
it's obviously National's smallest, most compact, lightweight shop blaster, but it's also one of our most popular models because not only do beginning contractors start with a small machine a lot of times, but even the larger contractors have much bigger shop blasters or grinders. They'll utilize those smaller shop blasters as a companion machine to get into tighter or smaller spaces they can't get their larger machine into. And twice this week already, true story, I've got a call and the response was, man, I can't get my blaster to move. It won't push across the floor. It's like hung up on something. And the first call, the guy, he had picked it up out of the back of a truck and didn't realize maybe that it weighed 110 pounds by himself. And when he went to go set it down, it kind of set down on one back wheel on that wheel axle, and it created a problem where that rear axle came at an angle, so his machine was crooked. The second call I took was a guy that said, I can't push my machine at all. It's hung up. I said, where are you working? Tell me the job site conditions. Is the floor rough? He's like, I'm in a basement. So immediately I said, did you go down the stairs? Back wheel, back wheel, back wheel, till you got in the basement on every step? Yeah. I said, okay, I know what the problem is. So the problem would be, yeah, we can do that.
What side do you want me to grab?
It doesn't matter. You want to grab that side? Do you think they can see this right here? So this is your rear axle, and both these wheels are on this solid piece, but it has slots right here with nylock nuts on both sides. So if I push this axle down, if I loosen those bolts on both sides, I'm going to raise the machine up. If it's too high and it's throwing shot all over creation, I probably want to lower that down a little bit. And what I do when I get a new machine is I make a mark on both sides so I can see if it's moved physically, or if I do have to make an adjustment, I can see how much I need to move it up or down. It's a really nice option to have on this machine, because where it comes set from factory, it's set up for a pretty smooth floor, but you guys know as well as I do, concrete's horrible. And the guys that finish it, some of them are really good at their job, some of them are not. So you get in some residential concrete that if you can walk on it, it's good concrete, but it doesn't mean it's flat. So if it's real rough, you might have a problem with your machine hanging up. So you can go ahead and adjust that axle down, lower your brushes down a little bit to compensate for that, and you're ready to rock and roll. So that's a big thing. You guys got to really watch this, is where this axle is located, and if it's horizontal like it's supposed to.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dave. We get that a lot, like you said. And the reason for that adjustment is like exactly what Dave said. The terrain can change, so on and so forth. There's also an adjustment on the front. We tried to keep it simple. It's a stack of washers. We had a real complicated system on the front, a two-caster assembly that was kind of clunky. So what we did is last year we worked with the engineering team, and we optimized this machine. We gave it some upgrades, and as well as being able to make it easier to adjust, because there's a lot of science behind shot blasting in general. I mean, Dave is by far, if you have a question about shot blasting, call National Flooring Equipment and ask to talk to Mr. Dave Bigham right there, because he is the expert. He's the expert at a lot of things, but shot blasting, I mean, I've learned everything I learned about shot blasting from Dave. He's excellent. And the shot blaster basically, if you don't understand what a shot blaster is, it basically takes metal pellets and has a motor with a wheel on it. And I'm going to show you one of those in a second here. And it shoots those down, and they bounce off the side of this other really hard metal called manganese, bounces off there, hits the floor, comes back up the return plenum. And when it's doing that, it's profiling the floor, which, like you said, we have other videos that Dave and Tom and others have done. If you want to check out more on shot blasting, just search our YouTube channel. But basically, that collects dust and concrete and so on and so forth when it comes back up in the return plenum. So the dust collector is very important to remove that dust from the shot so that it can go back in and again and go down. But everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be in the right angle. We have to have the right amount of shot. These are not as simple to use. Any shot blaster is not as simple to use as a ride-on scraper or a walk-behind scraper, where it's like, okay, if I have the right blade and I got the right angle, I'm just moving stuff off the floor. Things change, and like Dave said, there's different hardnesses of concrete. There's all kinds of other things. So definitely reach out to us if you have any questions. And what Dave showed was basically the actual physical adjustment of the machine. And then aside from that, we've also added some additional adjustment, and Nick's going to throw up a picture onto the screen right now, and you can adjust the brushes and the magnets as well. And the magnets need to be about 1/4 inch off the floor, 6 to 8 millimeters if you're on the other side of the pond. But basically, the reason for that is that traps any extra shot that's trying to sneak out. Like Dave said, we don't want to be blasting the wall over here. We want to be blasting the floor. And those brushes actually assist and keeping that shot in that maybe snuck past those magnets. So there's a lot of things happening in Shot Blaster. We could talk for days on that. Maybe we'll do a more in-depth Shot Blaster discussion in the future. But yeah, with that said, that's right out of our manual. So that's the other reason I like to show that picture is we've taken the time to like really explain in detail. We have a whole page on how to set up the magnets and the brushes. Of course, they're set here from the factory, but depending upon your terrain, you might need to change that. And like I said, reach out, if you have any questions about that. Dave, did you have any other last comments on the Shot Blaster?
No, we're about to wrap up. And listen, Geoff Putz, we really appreciate you guest hosting and showing up today and sharing some of your experiences. It's rare that we get to hear from somebody with your knowledge and experience. So thank you. And I also want to ask the audience if there's something that you guys would like us to cover in the future. I'm not going to give you examples, but if you want to talk about diamond tooling, there's an example. Will you chat in and give us your requests on what you'd like us to cover, what you'd like us to talk about? We already have lots and lots of videos on YouTube that you can review, but we're obviously going to continue to make them. So let us make some videos that you guys have interest in the topics on. I've been talking for my whole life, and I'd like to keep talking to you guys about something that you want to hear us talk about. So feel free to chat in your suggestions. And I just want to say again, thank you, Geoff, and thank you to the entire marketing team for setting this up. So long from Denver, Colorado, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. Until next time.